What if, like, everything you think is true about the world is actually an illusion? Like, what if your reality isn't a mirror, it's more like a projector, you know, shaping everything based on what you've already gone through and all your beliefs? That's kind of the crazy concept we're diving into today. We're exploring how our minds are actually, like, actively constructing what we think of as real. And we're going to be looking at this YouTube video we found, just really challenges like all these assumptions we have about how we see things. And it's super fascinating to get a glimpse into the hidden stuff going on that shapes how we experience the world. So let's unpack this whole mind as projector thing. The video basically says our brains don't just record the world like a camera would. It's more like they're interpreting it, adding in all these layers of meaning assumptions and expectations. It's like our minds are constantly making a movie, editing and cutting together different pieces to create a story that makes sense. Think about it this way. Two people walking down the street, it's raining. One of them is a kid maybe, and they see puddles, and they just think, oh, awesome, time to splash around. The other person, an adult maybe, worried about getting to work, they see the rain, and it's just a pain. Frustrating. Same rain. Two totally different realities, right? But here's the thing. These different ways of seeing things aren't talked about personality or mood. They're connected to our beliefs, values, and what we've been through in the past. Our minds are like detectives, constantly searching for clues to prove what we already believe. And that brings us to the power of belief. If you think the world is dangerous, your mind is going to be focused on potential threats, confirming that belief. But if you believe the world is full of opportunity, that's what you're going to see instead. Like wearing mental glasses that filter what we see, and those filters are shaped by our deepest convictions. The video talks about this really cool exercise to help us become more aware of these filters. It's called a perception journal. The idea is to just write down your reactions to things that happen every day and pay attention to the thoughts and emotions that come up. By looking back on those reactions, you can start to see the beliefs that are shaping your view of the world. So what filters are maybe affecting you right now? What beliefs are you holding on to that could be shaping your experiences? Being aware of these is the first step to understanding how your mind is actively building your world. Now let's get into how our past experiences and expectations influence how we see things. The video uses this analogy of comparing our minds to computer programs that run algorithms based on our personal history. And this is where it gets interesting. Let's say you had a negative experience with someone, and they looked a lot like someone from your past. Your mind might make a mental shortcut and judge people who look similar unfairly, even if they have nothing to do with your past experience. It's almost as if your subconscious is saying, hold on, I've seen this before, I know how this ends. These impressions that we form from our experiences act like filters, shaping how we take in new information. We're not always seeing things objectively, we're seeing them through the lens of what we've come through. It's not just past experiences, though, that shape our reality. Our expectations have a huge impact, too. Like if you go into a meeting thinking it's going to be boring, you're probably going to end up feeling that way, even if there's interesting stuff happening. But on the flip side, if you're expecting a positive outcome, you might miss some red flags. It's kind of like we're walking around with these mental blueprints in our heads, predicting how things are going to go. And our minds, those clever little storytellers, they'll often twist things to fit those blueprints. So where do these expectations come from? Well, it can come from past experiences for sure, but also from our culture or even the stories we tell ourselves. For example, if you grew up hearing hard work always pays off, you might start to expect success just because you put in the effort, and that could make you miss the role of luck or things outside of your control. This brings us to something really interesting from the video. Cognitive biases. They're like mental shortcuts that can mess with how we see things and make decisions, and often we're not even aware of them. One of the sneakier ones is confirmation bias. It's this tendency to look for information that backs up what we already believe, and we ignore stuff that challenges those beliefs. Think about a time you had a really strong opinion about something. Did you find yourself looking for articles or news that agreed with you? Did you dismiss anything that disagreed as biased or just wrong? That's confirmation bias doing its thing. It reinforces our existing beliefs and can trap us in these echo chambers where we only hear what we want to hear. And the video points out how this could be a huge problem in today's world. There's so much information out there, it's super easy to create a reality that fits our preconceived ideas. But that can lead to a really distorted view of the world. It can stop us from seeing the bigger picture and making informed decisions. So how do we fight these biases and become more objective in how we see things? The video suggests developing a healthy skepticism. This doesn't mean being cynical or doubting everything. It's about looking at information with a critical mind. Like when you see a news article, a social media post, or even just hear an opinion from a friend, take a second. Ask yourself, who's saying this? What's their motivation? And is there any real evidence to back up what they're saying? Just that simple act of questioning can help you break free from those echo chambers and see things from a more balanced perspective. Now let's switch gear and talk about another interesting idea the video explores. The silence of assumptions. Our minds, like we've been talking about, are always looking for patterns, trying to make sense of everything. But sometimes they fill in the blanks with assumptions without us even knowing it. Picture this. You're walking down the street and you see a friend. They look at you but don't wave or say hi. What goes through your head? Do you think they're ignoring you? Maybe they're mad at you. Did you do something wrong? Those assumptions, they're based on incomplete information and can lead to a whole bunch of negative emotions. Hurt, anger, resentment. But what if there's a totally different explanation? Maybe they were just lost in thought or distracted, or they literally didn't see you. The problem is when we mistake those assumptions for the absolute truth, it can damage relationships and cause unnecessary stress. And as we try to navigate all the complexities of human interaction, it's important to remember we're often working with limited information. We don't know the full story. We don't know what other people are thinking or feeling or why they're doing what they're doing. But our minds jump in and create these narratives based on those little snippets we see. And that leads to misunderstandings and misinterpretations. The video has this powerful reminder. When you find yourself making assumptions about why someone is acting the way they are, stop for a second. Challenge those assumptions. Ask yourself, are there other explanations? Am I jumping to conclusions based on my own biases or what I've experienced in the past? This habit of questioning our assumptions can be really freeing. It helps us move beyond our limited perspectives and see a wider range of possibilities. It helps us be more empathetic and understanding and compassionate in our interactions. And, when it comes to assumptions, social media can be a breeding ground for them. We scroll through these feeds, seeing little glimpses of people's lives, vacations, achievements, picture-perfect moments. And it's so easy to start comparing ourselves, thinking their lives are somehow better or happier or more fulfilling than ours. But it's important to remember social media often shows a very edited version of reality. We're seeing the highlights, not the struggles or doubts or insecurities that everyone goes through. By keeping this in mind, we could be smarter about how we consume online content. We could avoid comparing ourselves to others and focus on building our own genuine happiness. Now, it's also important to remember, assumptions aren't always about external stuff or other people. They can be directed inward, shaping how we see ourselves, our abilities, and our worth. Let's say you mess up. Your mind might jump in and tell you you're incompetent or you're a failure. This negative self-talk, it's fueled by assumptions, and it can really eat away at your confidence. It can limit what you're capable of and keep you stuck in a cycle of self-doubt. The key is to catch these negative assumptions and challenge them. Ask yourself, is this belief actually true? Is there any evidence to support it? And more importantly, is this belief helping me or hurting me? By questioning those limiting beliefs about ourselves, we open up space for growth and change. We start to see ourselves not through the lens of past mistakes or perceived shortcomings, but through a lens of possibility, potential, and self-compassion. So we've looked at how our minds create our realities. And we've seen how beliefs, experiences, biases, and assumptions all play a part in shaping how we perceive things. But the real power comes from understanding these influences and learning to work with them instead of against them. It's about becoming the conscious architects of our own realities. And the video really emphasizes that, questioning our beliefs and assumptions, it's not about finding some absolute truth. It's more of a journey. It's like self-discovery, peeling back the layers and seeing a reality that's more authentic and expansive. And this whole journey, the video says, it leads to this liberation from illusion, but it's not like a one-time thing. It's more like this continuous process of becoming more aware, you know, understanding and transforming. And the video lays out these 3 steps in this process of liberation: acceptance, self-knowledge, and transformation. Acceptance starts by just acknowledging that how we see things is subjective. It's colored by our experiences and beliefs, right? It's about recognizing that our minds are super powerful. They shape our realities, for better or for worse. But accepting this doesn't mean giving up. It's about taking ownership of our experiences. It's about saying, all right, this is how my mind works, so now what? How can I use this to create a life that's more fulfilling and meaningful? And once we've got that acceptance, we can move into self-knowledge. This means exploring our values, our beliefs, our thought patterns, our emotions, our needs. The more we understand ourselves, the easier it is to navigate life, right? We can start to see why we react in certain ways, why some situations make us feel a certain way, and why we're drawn to certain people and experiences. This self-awareness, it's like shining a light on the hidden parts of our minds. You see the patterns and beliefs that have been running the show without us even realizing it. And with that awareness comes the power to choose. We can ask ourselves, are these patterns working for me? Are these beliefs helping me grow? Are they good for my well-being? And if the answer is no, maybe it's time for a change. Maybe it's time for transformation. Transformation isn't about trying to be someone else. It's more about letting go of the things that are holding us back. The conditioning, the limiting beliefs, the old stories that just aren't serving us anymore. This might mean setting new goals facing our fears, learning new things, or being around people who inspire us and support us. It's a process that takes effort and dedication. But the video says the rewards are huge. By embracing these 3 things, acceptance, self-knowledge, and transformation, we step into a reality that's more in line with who we truly are. A reality where we can create the lives we want. And that brings us to the most powerful myth in the video. We are the authors of our own experience. We have the power to shape our realities. And I don't mean in some magical thinking kind of way. I mean through awareness, self-reflection, and taking action. It's about recognizing that our minds are powerful tools. And when we understand how they work, we can use them to create a life that's fulfilling and meaningful. So as we wrap up this deep dive into perception and reality, the key takeaway is this. Your mind isn't just reflecting the world, it's actively shaping it. And that means we have a responsibility to become conscious creators of our experiences, to challenge those limiting beliefs, to question our assumptions, and to focus on things that make us feel good and empowered. It's about understanding that we have more control than we think. We're not just along for the ride. We can shape how we perceive things, how we interpret them, and ultimately, what we experience. So here's a final thought to leave you with. What's something in your reality that you might be taking for granted? What would happen if you looked at it from a different angle, challenged an assumption, or allowed yourself to believe in something different? How would that change your experience? This deep dive has been all about exploring the power of the mind to create. Now it's your turn. Step into the role of creator and start shaping a reality that truly reflects your values, your dreams, and your full potential.